Anyone is having problem in running the parseserver?
Sir, I am facing problem in login.
Okay. Yeah.
Saying username and password is invalid.
Okay. Let's see what's happening in your computer. Okay. Just share your screen.
Can you see my screen, sir?
Yeah, I can see the screen. Let's see. Okay, go there first in the code. Let me check if everything is right. Just maximize it. Go up. Let me go through the whole file. You have dashboard, you have parseserver, path, then app ID, master key, API key, server URL, database URL, main.js, app ID, master key, REST API key. Go down. Okay, here server URL, app ID, master key, app name, user is Anand, password is password. Okay, go down, check more, dashboard, test, and HTTP. Okay, now do Control C and restart and run the node index.js again. Yeah, let's see. Okay, go up. What's happening? Let's see. Some error came. Let me see. Space required. Require. Okay, just put require. Save it and start again. Let's see. Okay, listening. Okay, now go to browser, localhost. Refresh it. Yeah, refresh the page. Put now. Invalid username and password. Okay. Okay. Can you go to localhost 1337 test? In the URL, go to test. Let's see.
This one?
Yeah. Test. Okay, test is running fine. Dashboard is also running fine, but you're getting.
Sir, I have copy your code and pasted in my side. Still, I'm facing the issue. The same error is showing.
Okay. Can you open the network in the console? Let me check. Yeah, refresh the page and choose the XHR.
Okay.
In the go up little bit. Yeah, XHR. XHR JS is there, CS is there. There is some tab is going on. All is selected. Go little down. Little up. Yeah. Little up. Go little up.
Not able to scroll.
No, don't. Little up means little up the mouse. Okay, go little down on the left side. Yeah, go little up. There is XHR, JS, CSS, image, media. Can you see that at the exact center of the page?
Exact center.
Yeah. Here. Go left. Only select XHR. Yeah, this one, right. Now put your Anand and password. Just put Anand and password in the username password. Okay, go up. In the form, put username and password.
Hit login.
Yeah. Okay, nothing is coming in this XHR. Go to your code. Let's see. Go down little bit and go down. Okay, let's check the. This is my code. This is your one.
This one is mine. I have typed actually.
Okay, you tried it. Okay, let me check. Let me check what I have used. You have user and there is a password. No, you should use pass, not password. On line number 43, it's a pass. Yeah, save it.
This is the default key in users.
That's how dashboard wants it. Refresh it. You have to start node again.
Okay.
Control C and then start again. Then refresh the page. Okay, now go there, refresh the page and try. Yeah, now close the developer. Now there is another problem. Okay, let's see what is the problem. Dashboard config.json.
500 status showing.
Yeah. Click it. Yeah, click it. Let's see. 1 second. Okay, so it's saying dashboard and pass dashboard config.json. Okay, close this one. Cross it. Yeah, let's see what error is in. Server error. Is MongoDB running fine? Can you open the compass? Okay, here it is running fine. Project 1 is created, but we are not able to see it in the dashboard. Okay, let's go to your dashboard configuration again. Let me check again. Go up a little bit. So now username and password is not the issue. Now there is some another issue. Server URL. Okay. App ID is app ID. Master key is master key and app name. Go up. Let me check the server URL. What is your server URL? Okay, server URL is this DB. Okay, DB connection is MongoDB localhost 27107 project 1. Okay, then app ID, master key, REST API key, server URL is HTTP local 137 parse. Okay, go down.
At the bottom.
Yeah. Okay. Go a little bit up now again. Go a little bit up. Okay, give me this index.js. Let me run index.js and see.
Copy and paste in Telegram or the chat.
Yeah. In the React JS, not this chat. In the React JS group. Also show me there is an error. Yeah, I will check. Can you show me the error in the Visual Studio? There, I see some error is there. Okay, let's see what it's saying. App.js line number 79. Go to 79 line number. Okay, it's in the dashboard app.js. We don't know that. Cannot read the property of map. Okay, something map issue. Let me run the same thing. Let me share so that you can see.
Sure, sir.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir, I can.
Okay, let me save this index to index mine.js and I will change the current index. Okay, I'll save it and let's see. Let me see what are the problem. Have you created this cloud and log public folder?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So server started. Let's check it. I am also getting server error. That means something is wrong in your one. Okay. See, this is apps, and you have app. Change the apps, app to apps.
Okay, sir.
Then do Control C, then start in Node.js again, and then check.
Okay.
Okay, now it's working. Anyone getting the problem? This problem? So my compass is not working. Okay, so let me. Can you share your screen? I'll make you presenter, and let's see what you are getting. Just accept the presenter role and share your screen. You might see some accept button because I asked you to become the presenter. You have to accept it and then you have to share the screen. Can you see in the this pre-conference call there may be some okay, sorry, I gave you some. Let me give it to you. I see two Shweta, I don't know.
One I locked off, one I took it from my mom.
Okay,
One
can you
night-
see the presenter now? Do you see presenter role? There is anything?
Yeah, I can see.
Okay. Yeah, you can unmute again, Shweta, because lot of noise is coming. Show me your numbers. Just close it and start again. I think you should have provided here. Put your folder, the numbers, your name. Yeah, maybe go to folder Explorer. And go to users, the G drive, the drive. Okay, any other person not getting this work in working condition? Okay, because we will be using a lot parseserver in this month and in December month, so you should be have this working state. So we will always save the data in the parseserver. That's why I need this to be working for everyone. Okay, so if anyone has still problem, they can ask me tomorrow. Let's go to the our promise which we started yesterday. Okay. So when you install the MongoDB, you need to choose the network service. Have you chosen the network service? Okay, username, it's asking username password. I know what you send in the chat. So that username password may be the username and password of your computer. When you log in, it may be asking permission to install it. Have you put that username password, the one with which you log in? Do you have admin rights? Do you have admin rights to install? Okay, just share your screen. Let me check. Okay, just accept the presenter role, show your screen, and let's see. Okay, where is your MongoDB? No, yeah, that's fine, Yeah, go ahead. Let it run. Can you hold the shift and right click that MongoDB exe file, the one which we started? Hold down the shift and right click it, that MongoDB file which you started just now. Ashok, just right click the MongoDB. Okay, I cannot see your screen. Okay. So the one which you opened just now, okay, again it's saying interrupted. Where is that one? Asking permission, username and password. Where is that? Ashok, are you there? Can you give me request to access your computer? I send you the request. I don't see username password which you said. Mr. Ashok, where are you? Can you talk? No, I'm not able to hear you. Maybe check your microphone connection. Okay, let it come back, and the thing is audio is not working. Okay, so let's go with the promise and we will see the promise. So generally remember, whenever we have to do some kind of time lagging in JavaScript, that is after certain seconds we need to do something, we need to use the promise, because without promise we cannot work without promise if the data is coming from the server and it takes time. So we need the promise to work it. So I will create one file. I will name it as 1.js right now. So here I will tell you the syntax. First we'll see basic syntax of promise. So when this promise is used, so we need to also see when the promise is to be used. Okay, so when it is used, when some data will appear or will show up in future. So right now what happens if you have the line 1, line 2 in JavaScript and some data is coming from the server, then it takes time. So by the time line 1 and line 2 is done, and when the data comes from the server, there is no way I can accept that data and use it in my code. So to avoid that situation, to use that data, we have to use the promise in our code. So a lot of libraries like jQuery and all, they have promise already inbuilt in their code. So you don't see really the promise in them because they don't expose the promise to you. They expose their functionality to you, but behind the scene, it is always using the promise. So we need to understand how to do the promise in our code. So whenever we use the promise, we have three states. Three states are there. So when we start the promise, the state which we have is called the pending state. And when something successfully comes to me, that is after certain seconds, the data comes successfully to me, then it is called fulfilled state. Fulfilled state. And when some error comes, it is called the rejected state. So we have three kinds of state, and we need to see what to do. When we have the pending state, we have to wait. And when the certain data comes, we create two functions, one function to handle the fulfilled part and one function to handle the rejected part. That's how we do the promise. So what is the basic syntax of the promise? I will write down that syntax and you have to remember that syntax. I will use any variable, say P or P1 equal to, and then I'll say new promise. Okay, new promise. And then inside this promise, I will pass the arrow function. So this is the basic syntax of the promise, that we have the promise and then we have the arrow function inside it. Now this arrow function gets two parameters. One is called resolve and one is called reject. And whenever, and here inside it, you call the server to get the data, or you call set timeout, so that some code should run after certain seconds, so that some code should run after certain seconds. So either of these two, when you will run, and if you get good response, then you say that this response is in the resolve. So I'll say resolve and I put response. So this response is up to you. What you want to pass. You can pass integer, you can pass string, you can pass array, you can pass object, like this. So whatever you want to use in your program, you can pass it here. So sometimes data comes as array, sometimes it comes as object, sometimes it comes as a string, sometimes it comes as a boolean. So whatever you feel that your program should do it, you pass that data here if there is a good response. But let's say tomorrow certain response does not come from the server. It is called bad response. Server does not return. Server has bad response. So you use the reject here. And here you also pass anything. You can pass integer, you can pass boolean, you can pass object, array, whatever you want, you can pass it here. Now tell me one thing. If instead of the resolve, okay, that I will go some other time. Right now, let's try to understand this part only. Now, what we'll do some sample part to see it in usage. So, for example, I say set timeout. A set timeout is a utility of the browser to give the response after certain seconds. So set timeout takes two parameters. One is called arrow function, and another is how many seconds after that you want to call this function. So we have to call this function after how many seconds? Let's say I will say 5 seconds. Okay, so now in the set time I will say resolve hello world. So that means after 5 seconds I am resolving this promise to hello world. Resolving means it is successfully implemented. Now once I create the promise, I have to use the promise. Now if I use this P1, if I use this P1 to save in the database, like I will say save into database, there is my function, and I put P1, then it is wrong because P1 is only the promise. It does not get this data. I need to save this hello world in database. So P1 is something a promise. It does not give me hello world. If I try to save P1 in the database, thinking that after certain seconds this will get resolved and I have to save the P1, then it is not the right way. We cannot save P1 in the database because P1 is only the promise. It is not the real data which I want to save. I want to save this part in the database. So what I have to do, I will say P1.then. P1.then means whenever we have the resolve, we go inside the then part. In the then part, I write the arrow function. And here I will say data. So whatever data I pass it here will go here as a data. Now I can say console.log data is data. So this is the whole promise which we need to understand again and again because there are some minor differences in little complex promise, but this is the basic structure. Now I will try to run this structure in the browser to show you it in a working condition. Okay, so this is the syntax of the promise, and this we have to call after we create this promise. This will tell me that whenever something is resolved, then I pass this console.log. So this console.log will not come into the picture unless we have this resolve statement. So it's saying promise, it's waiting for 5 seconds, and after 5 seconds I can see the data is hello world. So this is the simple thing that after 5 seconds I want to display this hello world here in this one. And till this data is coming, P1 is always in the pending state. And now when I pass P1 now it is in the fulfilled state. Previously it was pending state, now it is fulfilled state. Now in addition to resolve, if I pass reject here, then it will not go inside this then part. So to use this reject part, I have to call another part called as catch. Here I will say error. And here I can say error is this error. So whenever we have reject, it will not go inside the then part, it will go inside the catch part. And then I will see it here. Now if I enter this one, okay, some error. Let's see. In the catch part there is error. Okay, catch does not go like this, sorry. So catch is also an arrow function, so it's not like this. So catch also has arrow function. It's not simply, it's not the try catch, it is the catch here of promise. So it is also an arrow function, and here I will pass error, and inside the curly bracket I will say error is like this. So now see, promise is in the pending state, and after 5 seconds I am getting error because I am rejecting it. I am not using resolve part. Now if I see P1, it is in the rejected state. So there are 3 states which I explained. One is called pending state, fulfilled state, and the rejected state. So either the promise will be in the pending state, or it will be in the fulfilled state, or it will be in the rejected state. Okay, so now everyone has to tell me the syntax of the promise. Now first I will tell you, then you have to repeat it. Okay, you have to unmute yourself and you have to answer it. So the syntax of the promise is variable name is equal to new promise, and new promise has an arrow function, and arrow function accepts 2 parameters, resolve and reject. If we have successful return of the code, then we will use resolve and we will pass any data. If we have failure of the code, then we will use reject and we will pass the appropriate data which we want to reject it. And after this promise, we call the then statement. Then statement will always, then statement is also an arrow function, and it will always give me the resolve data. And there is also another state that is called the catch, and catch is also an arrow function, and it will give me the reject state or reject data. Okay, let me write down this so you have to remember it. Okay, so let me write down how you want to you have to explain this to me. So this is my terms. You will not get this in internet. I'm trying to create in my own language. You can create in your own language, but it should cover all these points. Okay, so promise is created by variable is equal to new promise. We have arrow or normal function inside promise. This arrow function gets 2 parameters. One is called resolve and another is called, you can use your language, your way, but it should have all these things, that it should have new promise, it should have resolve reject, it should have then, it should have the catch. It has 2 parameters, one is called resolve, another is called reject. Whenever we get good or success response from server, we pass that data back using resolve. But if we get bad data from server, we pass that data back using reject. Once promise is created, we can use it by calling .then function, and this .then has arrow function inside it with 1 parameter, and that is the data which was returned from resolve state or resolve part. If we have bad data, then the code will not go inside .then. It will go inside the catch block. Catch block is also having the arrow function, and it will get error as a parameter, and this error is nothing but data returned from reject block. Okay, so this is in simple terms which I created using these two lines of the code. So I will give you 5 minutes. You have to remember these two blocks. Promise is created by variable is equal to new promise. New promise is nothing but it has a parameter arrow function. This arrow function has resolve and reject two states. Whenever something good happens, we pass the data using the resolve. Whenever something bad happens, we pass data using the reject. And once we are done with this promise code, we start with dot then. So anything which comes good, that is resolve hello world, that is a good, or anything which is passed using the resolve will go inside this then block. But if we have the reject part, it will go inside the catch block. This is how you have to remember the promise, how to remember the promise. Now I'll give you 2 minutes. Just repeat this or read this in your mind in your own language. You know, I said in my language, so you have to explain this in your language. You can call asynchronous call using async and await. That is true. But we need to understand promise also. Once you understand the promise, we will go and do the async and await part. That is also important. We have to do async and await also, but we should understand the promise also before we go to async and await. Okay, so now I will give you 2 minutes. You have to explain this promise to me in your own language. It's not necessary you should repeat what I said, but you have to repeat as you wanted. And if I have multiple resolve, then it will not take the second resolve. It will only take the first resolve. After first resolve, anything resolve or reject after that will not be considered. Okay, so I'll give you 2 minutes. I will ask every one of you should explain me this one. I will ask this from every one of you. Okay, tell me who will go first? You have to explain these two blocks of the code in your own language.
I can go first.
Okay, go, start.
So first we create a object, and this object is a new promise. So in promise there is an arrow function. In arrow function we got two parameters. One is resolve, one is reject. And then we will call the server to get some data. If we successfully get the data, we will using the resolve method to give back the data, to give back the response to the data. And if we didn't successfully call the server, and we will using reject to send us the error notification. And if we got successfully getting the data, we will do the dot then, and there is also an arrow function, and the data is what we get back from the server, and we can manipulate the data there. If else, if we get error, then in the dot catch, we can console log the error to see what type is error.
Right, very right, correct, absolutely correct. Now, I will ask from other students soon. Just want to make sure one thing, that once we get this data, this we can save in the state. If we are using the React, we can save in the state this part, this data, and then we can use it on the page. That is why we are putting it. Right now we are only putting console.log, but in practical world we have to use this data, so that we will use it by passing this into the state. Okay, let's go, Shweta, you can start.
Parameter is created by variables, that is called new promise. We have arrow function inside. The promises. One is resolve and one is reject. When we get the success response from the server, it will be resolved. When we get a bad response from the server, it will be reject. Once promise is created, we'll use by then followed by the arrow function inside it. Inside the then one parameter it is called data, which returns the resolve. It returns from the resolve. Then whenever error comes, that will come from the catch. It is also having an arrow function inside it. One parameter called error. Whenever any bad data comes, it will go.
Right, correct. So you have explained it very correctly, that we create a promise, and then once we get good data, we resolve it. Once we get bad data, we reject it, and good data goes to then part, and the bad data goes to edge part. Now, who is our next one? Okay, before someone goes, I want to just make sure one thing. One second. Okay, so this is called the resolve and this is the reject. Can someone tell me, if I pass this as R1 and this R2, then this R1 passing here and R2 passing here, will this work? Yes, it will work, because these are the only sample parameter. You can name it anything. You can name it resolve, reject, or you can put A, B, C, D, whatever you want, you can put. Similarly, if we have data here, I can use D, D, D. Whatever I want, I can use this, because this is just a parameter, and it comes with different name. You can put any name you want. Okay, who will go next? Girls are winning. Both the girls are bold. They can. Okay, Ashok Kumar, go.
Yes, sir. So this new promise, actually we can use a kind of var constant also, constant p1 equal to new promise constructor. We have to use a new keyword. It will accept two parameters like resolve and reject. It's a kind of flat array function. Inside that you have to declare set timeout to handle the resolve and to resolve and the reject state. And the okay, the set timeout thing is again arrow function. It resolves if you want to handle any data from the backend API. We have to call like a constant p1 or will p1 dot data, then that data will be stored in a state or any variable to show in the UI. And in the case we want to handle any kind of error block, so we have to use again cache, again a kind of flat array function to show the error which is coming from the backend.
Right, right. Okay, let me tell you one more thing. 1 second. Okay, so I just want to tell you one more thing. So we have then statement with arrow function, and then we have the catch statement. This catch statement as arrow function, I can also do this thing that, let me copy this and or save it as 2.js. So we have the catch state, but some people don't write the catch block. They take this arrow function and pass it as a second parameter of then. Okay, so then also this will work fine. So this error in the then block, we have the first parameter, first arrow function is for the resolve, and the comma, and the second arrow function block is for the reject. So some people don't like to put the catch, they pass this as a second parameter. So it's up to you what you want to use. So practically, personally, I prefer to use the catch, but I have shown you both the options. So tomorrow, if you want, you can use that part also. In this, I will also put it here in case if you want to use this way without catch block. So it will give me same thing what catch was giving. So for example, let's run this. If I use reject, it should go here in the second block. Let me show you on the. So I put reject, so it should go in the error block. So it's going in the error block. So either I can use the catch block, or I can pass as a second parameter in the dot then function. Okay, this is just a point I want to mention it. Okay, now I don't want anyone more people to answer this now, but I will ask you tomorrow. Okay, let's go to the third number 5. Let's see one more example of the promise. We have to do a lot more example. Tomorrow also I'll give you few more promise examples. I will save it as 3.js. Okay, let's try to run one promise. Okay, this is little complicated function. I will create one global variable called as count. I will name it as 0. Now I will create one function, and here I will say I am testing promise. So it's a test promise function. Okay, and it takes some milliseconds, ms, some seconds, which you want to, or I can say, yeah, ms. So it's something we will pass that. If I pass 5,000, I want to use 5 seconds in the set timeout. If I pass 10,000, that means I want to wait for 10 seconds. Okay, that is why I put this test promise ms. And I will call this test promise here. So just here I will ask questions in between. So first will be, let's say 10,000. I will wait 10 seconds. I will call this test promise second time as 20 or 15,000, that is 15 seconds. And then again I will call this as 5,000, that is 5 seconds. So when I run this function, First time it will wait for 10 seconds, second time it will wait for 15 seconds, third time it will wait for 5 seconds. Okay, this 10,000 means 10 seconds. Now I will run this function. I will use the promise here. So first I will say, let's say I will say func count. So whenever I run this func count, I want this count to be different. Okay, so I will say plus plus count. So that means when first time I run test promise, this func count will be 1 because count will be added to 1. When second time I will run, this count will be 2. And when third time it will run, this count will be, func count will be 3. Why I am using this func count? To know how many times I run this function. That's why I am counting it. Okay, so this, let's go now further. Now here I will do some console.log so you can see what's happening. Here I will say func count, and here I will say start synchronous code. Till I am not using promise, all are synchronous code. This is the line it runs, and then this line runs. So this means these are the synchronous lines. We are not using any asynchronous code. Asynchronous means it will take time to respond. That is called asynchronous. But since this function is right now using the synchronous, so I am saying start synchronous code. And in the end line, I am saying end synchronous code. So this function starts with the synchronous part and then ends with the synchronous part. If I run this one right now, let's run this one. Right now, since I am not using any asynchronous part, then what will happen? I will run this statement, then I will run this statement for all the 3 cases. So when I press enter, I am saying 1 start, 1 end, second start, second end, third start, and third end. Because I'm not using any asynchronous case here. All are synchronous, that's why I get 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3. Now, let's go to write some asynchronous part here. I'll create one variable p, and that is nothing but new promise. Promise is a parenthesis, it's a function, or it's an object because we are using the new. And here we have the arrow function. Arrow function will get 2 parameters. One is called resolve and another one is called reject. Okay, inside this parenthesis, I will say console.log func count promise started, asynchronous code started. So 2 things started. Promise started. Promise means asynchronous code started. That is what I am saying. And here I will also pass how many milliseconds it is, so that I know how many milliseconds it will wait. So in the first case it will wait for 10 seconds. In the second case it will wait for 15 seconds. In the third case it will wait for 5 seconds. Okay, so we did this console.log. Now, since this is a promise, we need to write some asynchronous code. I can write the server call, or I can write the set timeout. For learning purpose, we will use the set timeout, but when we will go to the real project, it will be the server call. So set timeout has 2 parameters. One is called the arrow function, and another is how many seconds it should wait. So I will pass ms. So in the first case, this set timeout should wait for 10 seconds. In the second case, 15. In the third case, 5. And here inside the set timeout, I will write down simple. I will resolve. What I will resolve? I will resolve this func count. Okay. So in the first case, it will resolve with 1 number. In the second case, it will resolve with 2 number. In the third case, it will resolve with the 3 number, because we are counting 1, 2, and 3. So now this promise is over. We are using a set timeout, and after few seconds it will resolve the condition. We are not testing reject here in this exercise. We are only testing the resolve part. Now I have to use this, so I'll say p.then. Okay, and I will also say dot catch. Then is an arrow function. Catch is also arrow function. Okay, inside the then I will get some value. What value I'll get? In the first case I will get 1 because count is 1. In the second case value will be 2. In the third case value will be 3. So here I will write down console.log value, and here I will say promise fulfilled. That means promise was successful. And I will say async code ended. So where did it started? It started here. And where did it ended? It ended here when we get successful response from here. Okay, and when if we have some kind of rejection, I will put it here. So here I will say error, and here I will write down console.log error, and I can say rejected. Async code ended. So in both the cases, async code will end here or here. Here we get fulfilled, here we get rejected. I can say promise rejected. And after that, after the promise, I am saying the end sync code. Now we will see when we will run this code how the things are happening using the console.log. This is simple promise, and 3 times we are running this promise. In the first case, we run the set timeout 10 seconds, second time 15 seconds, third time 5 seconds. And then once we get response, we call .then, and we have the successful response or failure response here. Right now we will not go into the catch because I am not using the reject, but we will always go into this then part because we are always using the resolve part. Now let's run this and see what happens. Okay, I paste the code. Now I'll press enter. Now you watch. So one sync code started, promise started, async code started, then end sync code. See, this async code is coming right now, but sync code is over. So when I am running the sync code, always 1 1 1 2 2 2 3 3 comes in the synchronous order, in the normal ordering. But based on the time, in the first time we get 10 seconds, 15 seconds and 5 seconds. So the response from the third one will come first, and that's why I can see third here. Promise fulfilled, async code ended, because response was 5 seconds only. And after 10 seconds we get response from first one. So I'm getting 1 here. And after third, that is this 15 seconds, it goes here in the last. So though synchronous code was going normally, but asynchronous code runs with 3, 1 and 2. So this is just a simple example to practice the promise. So just to understand how the promise works. Though this was the simple example, and this we made it little more complex, and to understand what happens in the then part. In the then part, we always check the one which comes from the server first, we get that first, and then which comes from the server second, we get it second. Okay, so this is a simple example of the promise. So both the examples, this one part and second part, I will put it in the React group. You can practice it whenever you want. I will also create the page in the like in my server, and I can share the tutorial also. Right now I'm just putting in the React Telegram group so that you can practice this to both examples. So this promise is not yet done. This is the basic part of the promise. We are done with the basic part, but it has more things to be added, which I will add tomorrow and day after tomorrow. So few days we will only learn the promise and also async await. So there is an advanced version of promise that is called async await, which we will see tomorrow or day after tomorrow when the time will come. So any questions on this promise?